Welcome to another Meta Start workshop. Okay, let me go to maybe the next slide. We are not starting soon. We are starting right now. Hi, Tevik. So, welcome here. Well, today we have like an exciting thing to share because this is the first time that we are actually hosting an event like this. In this event, we are going to do some app showcase. And the theme of today's is about onboarding, which is a very important subject. And so will not be alone on today's workshop. I will be joined by Shane and Tevik. They are already here on the chat and probably waving also on their webcam. I cannot see them, but you guys are doing this. So yeah, you don't get just one mentor, but three today, and we are all going to share some tips that you can learn, some tips that we learned from testing some games made by the Star community. And today, this is the agenda. We are going to do a short introduction, very short, about onboarding. And then, as I was sharing to you guys, we, all three of us mentors, are going to share the game that we tested for you and say how they were able to successfully manage their onboarding and what you can learn from this game for your own project. So, without further ado, here are all three games that we are about to share. I will personally talk about Cubism and also Laser Dance, made by Thomas Van Boel. You probably heard about Cubism and Laser Dance, hopefully. Then Shane will go next and talk about Loop One Down, another amazing game made by the Start community. Very interesting one. And finally, Tevik will talk about RC Pilot Trainer, a free-to-play multiplayer game which is using RC Pilot. Very interesting. And so here is basically the matter. Because onboarding is a very important subject if you are building for the MetaQuest headset. Well, because not only it's challenging for the simple reason that the first 5 minutes are where you are losing most of your player. It's a known fact. So if you're making a game, not just a VR game, anything, the first 5 minutes are the most important. And why is that? Well, it's simply because in these 5 to 10 minutes, you need not only to make your game fun. That's the guy on the right, and then you need to make it also easily understandable. So you need to teach and you need to make it fun. And these two things are often the time fighting each other. If you want to make something fun, it's hard to make it also feeling like it's a tutorial. If you are teaching something, it's sometimes hard to make it fun. And in this workshop, we are basically going to share how you can actually turn this fight into just two friends having fun with each other. We are going to join learning fun into onboarding, and this is how we are going to do so. Well, but first, I will go first by talking about Cubism and Laser Dance. So, what can we learn from both of these games to make the two guys fighting, hugging each other? And now, talking about Cubism and Laser Dance, well, I hope that you guys already are familiar with these two games. The good thing is that I'm going to share their onboarding, and because they did it great, it's actually going to also teach you what's inside the game. So yeah, Cubism is basically a very successful puzzle game where you can join some pieces together to complete a puzzle. And Laser Dance is basically a mixed reality game that it will turn your room into a laser space where you need to go from one side of your own room in mixed reality to another without touching the laser. So, and as you can see, yeah, the two are very successful. Laser Dance was released this December, and it was, yeah, such a great experience to share with the family, during Christmas. I remember watching some, I actually just shared this game to a couple of my friends, and it was so funny to see each other, and, fighting against invisible laser. But anyway, that's for another subject. This is the two things that are going to matter here for these two games because luckily for me, I was able to contact Thomas Van Boel, the creator of Cubism and Laser Dance, and I asked him these two questions. What's the key element for all onboarding and what makes mixed reality onboarding different? Because we know that onboarding is an important subject for not only game development, but it's also very different for VR games, of course, because the setup are different, the player difference, the movement, all of that can add a lot of friction. But it's also more important for mixed reality where, well, your game depends on your player setup and on your player's room. So how can you adapt your onboarding to your player space, basically. And these two questions, these are the two things that I'm going to share with you right now. So without further ado, the question is, how does Cubism keep their player engaged? Let's have a look at this with the video. Okay, it starts. That's already great news. You guys can see the video. Okay, this is the onboarding. And here I really want to show you. This is the first step. So I'm launching the game and this is what I see in the headset. And I'm going to pause just to explain it to you what's going on. And I want you to focus on these and think for yourself what it's giving to the player. What kind of information this is giving to the player. First, this is what I'm looking at. I'm launching the game and I can see, oh, it's in French, sorry, by the way. It's basically asking us to press on both trigger button at the same times. And if I do this correctly, this is what happens. I will press and then I have one shape. I have, I guess, two shapes showing. One that is only showing its border and the other that is filled and that is glowing like this. And basically, it's asking us, it's begging us to drag one shape to the other space. Wait a second. There. Okay, beautiful. So the two shapes are showing, and then it's begging us to drop the shape there, and this is our reward. We have the beautiful Cubism showing with nice music that you cannot hear, sorry, but with nice slow music. And then once this Cubism title opens, we have our first puzzle. A very easy, a very simple one, but very rewarding one. And once it's done, boom, the onboarding, it's over. It was fast, I know. And that's also one of the reasons why this is a good onboarding. So let me repeat for you. We need to press on the trigger button, drag one shape. We get a nice title. Then we get a UI. We open our first menu or our first puzzle. It's a simple one that we can actually fill very, very fast. And then once we get this, not only we were able to understand the interaction, the input, and the style of the game, but also get a few rewards. And here is how it is playing out. This is basically what happened. From the store page, this is exactly the time that I try to recall myself, going from one to another. This is the time that it took to go from the store page to the first puzzle. At the first moment that I was on the store page, clicking on launch, 10 seconds later, that was very fast because the game APK size is very small. I was able to get to this, press these two buttons. Then I was able to get to the first interaction. 15 seconds after, I was able to get to the Cubism reward and then to my first puzzle after only 20 seconds. And here, well, basically, all of this can be summed up with something that Thomas told me. And he told me this key principle, this principle that he used for all his game, which is one key principle that I've tried to apply for both games is getting to the core of the game as quickly as possible. And it just shows. It just shows that really Thomas on his game wants you to play the game fast. He wants you to start directly with the game and have yourself not only the interaction, but also the reward. And for me, these are the two things that you need to take into consideration the most for any onboarding. The time to first interaction and the time to first reward. Now, so keep these two in mind. But I think that there is also some tips and tricks that we can learn from with Cubism. The first is that the store page also matters for onboarding. Onboarding basically starts before the game even launch. Because we always think about onboarding like being a tutorial when we start the game, but actually you can start the onboarding from your store page. If your store page is easy to understand and it has like a nice trailer showing the game and that you are not lying about in some interaction that are not present, but that you are sharing the idea of the game very simply, the onboarding can already start from the store page. Then also APK size matter in a way because with my slow internet, I was able to get it very fast with its size. And something also nice that actually learned just today, a couple of minutes before starting. Do you remember here this first step where we needed to, press on the two trigger button at once? Well, actually, at the time, I only thought that, okay, this was to learn about the only input of the game, which is the trigger button or the pinch. And that because of this first step, we actually learn about that we needed to press on this to do something. But actually, is actually using these two finger press, these two trigger press, to center the player space and have your puzzle in front of you. So this onboarding method not only tells and shows the input of the game, but it is also used for the player setups. I only thought, yeah, it's a nice way to, I think, to do both job at once. So there you go. And now maybe another question. So what about mixed reality? Well, we talked here about onboarding for traditional game, but what about mixed reality? And here I want to share with you guys the second game of Thomas, which is Laser Dance, a mixed reality game where you need to avoid some laser. And here is the first thing that you can see on the application. You have the best practices. You have a text asking you, laser dance is played between two buttons. Play them on opposite side. And here, well, after this, you can simply put your hands on one side, then move away from this button, go to another place, and then put your hands back on the wall. And this will actually create the player setup. And you can do this. You can get started on the game. Well, to go back to the previous question, what about mixed reality? Well, mixed reality is of course tricky because mixed reality needs to have its context provided by the player. And this is, of course, a tough subject. But here, well, you need to be smart. There is not like a shortcut. You cannot remove the player's context. It's a very important part of mixed reality. But what you can do is try to think of ways to simplify it. And to, of course, debug it on different room because your game needs to adapt to different player. Try to debug as much as you can. And here, I think that doing the setup that Thomas did in his game, which is placing two buttons, was making sure that you are placing the game yourself and you are actually not only able to reach this place, so you are able to reach these two buttons, but you are also able to go from one button to another. So yeah, it's a smart way to do it. It's a smart way of getting these two information from the player. So think about the information that you need to get and try to find simple and fast way to get them from your player for mixed reality onboarding. Anyway, let's go to another thing that I really wanted to share, which is, well, what about level progression? I will try to go as fast as possible here, but it's a very important subject, and I think that the Cubism and also Laserdance did a very nice job at level progression. Now, if you look at the two games, they are a bit different. One is a puzzle game, one is a game where you need to avoid obstacles. They are different, but they share the same principle in their level progression. The level progression are separated in like simple user interface, going from easy to difficult, but one thing that really struck me is that they both share a very, very important rule, and this rule is that simpler is better. Well, when you think about making a level progression, you need to think about starting simple. And this is really what it is about, because not only if you are starting simple with your level, well, it's going to reduce the cognitive load for your player, which means that they will not get too many information at once. You will remove friction and basically make sure that they are doing the things that they need to do. Because if you share them more thing, of course, more thing can go wrong. That's why going simple is also important. And now, another thing which I actually believe is also well done with, for example, Cubism. Remember that in Cubism, the first interaction you do is place a cube into another, and actually this cube turns into the eye from the title Cubism that spawns in front of you. And this is actually a short-term goal which was provided during the onboarding. That's also something important to consider into level progression. Doing things simple at first will create some short-term goal for your player. So, if you are making a game, a puzzle, a platformer, anything, make sure that your first thing is trivial, the second thing is guided, and your third thing is easy. Okay? This is basically the simple way to do this. But of course, be smart with it. And there is only one quick way to be smart with it, because you are going to be one of the best players of your game by making it. That's for sure. So how can you know what other people are thinking about your game? How do you know that people are struggling with your game? And here Thomas shared two things with me. Well, these two things are basically how to understand your difficulty curve. One thing is about before launching the game, and another is after launch. Now, before launching, you don't have like a lot of data from your player because your game is not, or often not publicly available. So, a good tips that was the case for Thomas while building laser dance was to actually go to conferences, because they are a great way to get feedback and see this feedback face to face with your players. Now, after launch, you can use some different technique. Here, Thomas actually used Mixpanel, which was letting him get some data on the average solve time and solve percentage. So getting these two values, solve time and solve percentage, he was able to balance out the game's difficulty curve, not just the onboarding. And there it is. These are the things that I learned from playing Laser Dance and Cubism. And now we have more things to share. Remember that we had first Cubism, Laser Dance, but I'm going to share now. We are going to go with another game presented by another mentor. It's going to be the time for Shane to shine.
The game I'll be showcasing is Loop 1 Done by Jonas, who's in the audience today. We'll start by watching just the start of the trailer to give a bit of context of what type of game it is. So it is a factory optimization game where you're automating things, you're recording movements. It's honestly one of my favorite mixed reality titles. It's super intuitive, the art style's amazing, everything just fits. And it's not just my opinion that matters. Looking at the review score on this store page, it's sitting at a 4.9, which is really great for a mixed reality title. So within the first 10 seconds, there's clear visuals. It uses direct touch for the menus, which is kind of how you interact with a lot of the aspects of the game. So it teaches the player how to play the game right from the get-go. The art style and menus are just super cohesive. I love the parallax on the menu at the top here. It really makes it feel like it's a game built for XR. It being a mixed reality game, the scene understanding and onboarding is one of the best I've tried in mixed reality titles. It's built right into the experience instead of shunting you into meta's system level. It lets you calibrate and adjust your space in a way that feels like it's part of the app instead of it sending you to the OS level. It's within the first 45 seconds, you have your room all set up. You're able to make sure your mixed reality environment is there. And then you're already making objects and starting to actually get into the gameplay. So being able to validate your room setup in a way that feels native to the experience is a great way to make sure that players stay in your app and have the best experience. VR and MR have high friction in general, so trying to find ways to lower that friction, it's a great way to increase player retention and improve the first-time user experience. Within the first 60 seconds, it gives you instructions starting with the basics of how to interact with the UI and slowly escalates from there. Instructions may seem simple and basic, but it doesn't leave anyone behind. It makes it really approachable to anyone who's wanting to play and doesn't feel overly hand-holdy. It wasn't baby's first VR, here's how to use a controller, but it's provided enough context that people who are unfamiliar with games or haven't tried mixed reality before are able to confidently interact with the world. It works with both hand tracking and controllers, and the onboarding covers both of those, and you can switch between them very fluid. So after it explains the controls, it walks you through the first interactions of building your first unit or tower, platform. All of the instructions are provided in both written and narrated, which is helpful because a lot of times players don't read. Players historically don't read. It's especially bad in VR. So providing multiple modalities to convey the information to the users is a great way to encourage and hopefully promote better retention of what you're trying to do. Beyond it just being it's talking to you and there being a text box, the user has a to-do list where they're actually actioning those items and completing them in small chunks in a way that will hopefully instill that knowledge, and they get more and more progressive as the steps build on top of each other. So you start with just building a tower, and then it becomes shorter loops, and eventually the whole gameplay is covered. So the big transferable insight is teach one thing at a time and let players do it and then build off of that. Each stage gives satisfying feedback. When you complete a task, there's particles, there's sounds. It's very juicy. It makes me want to move on to the next stage. Some tutorials feel like a list of chores that I'm trying to complete. This makes me want to go on and complete the next one. And while the tutorial might start out with basic, here's how to grab a menu, it being small chunks and rewarding with good audio feedback and visuals makes me want to just progress. And I've killed a headset playing Loop 1 Done. It's just been one session that I didn't want to leave. So try to reward the players with good feedback and make them feel good about completing it instead of it being overly tutorialized of here's how to do it and it being a chore. And once you finish the tutorial, things get more and more complicated. You build up the player's confidence and they can understand all the mechanics in the game and it transitions smoothly from tutorial into the game, which makes it feel like all the work that you've done up to that point hasn't been wasted. My main takeaways from this is onboarding starts from the start. So loading up into a cohesive UI that matches the screen, that has similar interactions as the rest of the game, kind of prepares the user for what the rest of the experience is. Explaining users how to do an action and then letting them do that and gating the progress on the success of that action ensures that the player understands what you're asking of them. The visual and audio feedback for the tutorial is a great way to make sure that players with different learning styles are understanding what you're asking of them. It's also an accessibility issue. Some people don't have hearing disabilities or might be playing without their volume turned up or playing in a noisy environment. So providing multiple modalities for the instruction is a great way to ensure that players actually know how to play your game. Loop 1 Done provided enough flexibility in each of the steps where I felt like I had autonomy as I was doing it. There was still clear steps I needed to do, so it wasn't open-ended, but there was a single solution for solving the problems, which would not set me up for success later on in the game. Each step of the tutorial felt like it was rewarding with strong feedback, which encouraged me to keep going. The tutorial steps started from basic UI to the full game loop, which built confidence for the players. It lets players engage with the core mechanics early on, which helps communicate what type of game it was. It let the players feel like they understood what was going on before just throwing them into the game and having them learn on their own. There still is a lot of discovery to be had, and you get better after the tutorial. You figure out how to optimize your pipelines and your factory efficiency goes up. It's a fantastic game. I would recommend it. And as a mixed reality title, I think this is one of the best onboarding experiences I've had. So good job, Jonas. And that's it for me. Off to Tevin.
Hi guys, my name is Tevfik and I will be presenting RC Pilot Trainer. It's an amazing app, first of all. I'm an aerospace engineer and I loved it. So I actually also did this as a hobby in my college years. So I should definitely say that it is one of the best RC simulators. And Davey is actually the one behind this app and he's here. He's a really nice guy. I will just show you stuff and you will be also amazed. It's a really successful indie app. So one of the key metrics is thanks for Davey for providing me this info. The first interaction takes about 7 seconds, like you just fly as soon as you spawn, and the core loop also like 7 seconds, and in 10 seconds you actually get the first reward, which is like flying this aircraft, this trainer one. In fact, let's see in action. There is a voice of like tutorial. It just shows us like to do like the throttles, introduce the throttles left and right, and it is really simple to do. And the only thing that you should like check out here is just you don't have any UI or any text. It just like pure immersion here. Also, the place here is actually a real one. It's like 300 60-degree image. But as far as I remember, Davey has actually produced all these by himself. So like this is really amazing. You should definitely check this. So I will go with other slides. So the core design is that when you join, you are placed directly in a realistic RC flying field, which is also like a real place in the world, and no UI, no HUD, and it just really feels like a real flying experience. And the physics are working. It's actually like it is all physics based. Like all the things are happening in real time. So just pick up the controller and fly. This is the core loop. And this is the tutorial. Oh, it should be a tutorial. No, it is the it is the immersiveness of this scene. Like look at this, it's awesome. And the sounds of the RC plays are also amazing. Okay, so in the first 6 seconds, you spawn in this flying field, and you also get asked for tutorial. According to Davey, most players skip this and start flying instantly, which is good. So the first goal is stay in the air. Reward is successful takeoff, and of course, crashing the aircraft is really fun because it just get destroyed. And the other thing is that this is one of the best retention, the build your own feature. Davey has added this recently, and it actually drives the highest retention, but also the players actually struggling to even start using it. So it also, I'm sure, I'm just guessing there, affected the like players purchasing stuff because they can build their own airplane. So it is really interesting to have a feature that is driving retention, but at the same time giving the most difficult controls. Like it is really actually complex to do. You are actually building a plane. Let me actually show you. So I even couldn't learn it and quickly use one of the players' own built aircraft. So it is hard to actually get hang of it. So according to Dave, this is actually the strongest part of the game, but also the biggest missed opportunity right now, which is something to think about. That's all actually. You should definitely play this game. If like you can also like call me about this. We can play together because it's multiplayer. So we can just hang out and fly our planes. Quentin, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Devik. Amazing. Yeah, I played also RC Pilot Trainer and I love it. And was it you playing the first part where you crashed the plane?
No, actually, but I have I have some crazy videos, but I wouldn't share here.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to know if the first time that I played, I struggled a little bit, so I was trying to seek some comfort there, but no. But yeah, no. Thank you for sharing, Tevik, and it's very nice to see this game, which is of course very interesting. Not only with its free-to-play feature, the multiplayer aspect, all of that. I was also actually I didn't remember you could skip the tutorial. I'm actually wondering. Jonas, are you doing the same with Loop One Done? Do you have like a button to skip the tutorial? And
Yeah,
if
that's a good point.
is it something actually? I don't know the answer here, but is it something you feel like is important to add in a game, or do you feel like most people are actually, yeah, it's better to force a tutorial to some player, or or is it better to ask the question? Yeah,
I mean,
that's my
the
question.
first time you start a game, you don't get to choose if you don't like go into the settings. But the next time you start to save, you will be able to choose if you want to have the tutorial or not. So yeah, no, yeah, I don't give the option for the first time users because it's so much thing that you can't really understand by just playing. I think some things is very obvious, like how to move things around, but like in my game, like how to actually make a recording, it needs to be like explained.
That's great. Yeah, and it makes also sense for a returning player because in a way, okay, if you are forcing the tutorial for the first time, but that you are making it possible to rewatch a tutorial for returning player, you are kind of making it possible for them to rejoin the game, relearn about it, but not lose the progress that they made inside. So yeah, this feels like the best of both worlds in a way. So yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
and if you even can like, I don't do that in my game, but if you can store how long time the player played before, then you can even have some like refreshers, sort of like you have in a TV series, like this is a recap of the last season or something. Because when a player comes in like half a year later, then they don't remember how you play the game. So you can be smart about it.
That's really nice. Thank you, Jonas. I mean, it's amazing to have you here with Davey as well. As you guys can see, we have both developer of Loop on Done and RC Pilot Trainer, so it's very good. If you have some question, we as mentor can answer them, and them they as developer can help us. So that's that's amazing. And is there a good recommended way to have tutorial that gets out of the way? Since I have primary hand and no end, so tutorial that get out of the way. I think that here with what we just share with the skip tutorial button, it's already a question. But honestly, the best tutorial is in a way to not make it feels like a tutorial. This can be done with the little tips that we shared, making it fun, making it one step at a time, simple, trivial to easy to simple. And I guess here also there is also a lot of information that you can share without saying it. To give you some example here, I remember when I was demoing my own games. I was so stressed about people playing the game that I was behind them, telling them what to do and what to do next. I don't know if you guys had the same thing happen, but I was so stressed about people playing it the right way that I was like overthinking. Oh, okay, now that you did it, push on that button. Okay, now that you have that button, you can grab the sword there and go over there. And it was so boring for the player, because they want to play the game, they want to think, they want to take time, they want to experience it. Not everybody wants to rush these type of games. So yeah, you can also it's not bad if people take a little bit more time, but that you can share some info and tutorial about your game without saying it. The example that I share with Cubism, for example, is that the first interaction, you have no text, you have two cube, one filled, one empty, and in your mind, you know that you need to grab the filled one and put it over there. It's sharing information without telling it. And I think it's important, and it can make it feel like it's not a tutorial anymore and make it feel like you are not behind the guy telling him what to do next. So yeah.
Adding to what Quentin said, just when you're playtesting early, just see where people get stuck and then add more tutorials or more help there instead of over explaining, because players are pretty smart.
Part of that is also removing unnecessary complexity, removing the need to tutorialize that complexity. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Thomas VB Van Boel, are you the man I'm thinking of? Now we have the three developers. So nice to see all you guys here. That's really nice. Now, thank you to Shane and Tevik for sharing their game. Thank you to the amazing Start developer for making this game. Thank you for you guys for following along. Shane, Tevik, do you want to say something before we close everything?
I just wanted to thank the developers for letting us showcase their games. It's great to be able to use real world examples to help improve the community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, the same. Thank you. Thank you guys for letting us actually make these games, first of all, and also like having us preview your game. Thank you.
Amazing. And with that, it is the end of this workshop. Thank you, guys.